there is like a complete roadmap here if Marvel chooses to take this path that Kingpin could just be the street level bad guy of the MCU. It seems like they have a lot of confidence in Vincent D'Onofrio. He even has said in all these interviews, like, we didn't really like the old version of the show. I called Kevin Feige and said, can we do it differently to make this a 4th season? And they're like, okay, D'Onofrio, whatever you want. It seemed like on the whims of him and Charlie Cox, they basically made this a 4th season. And I think that just shows a lot of confidence. And the only other person I know that Marvel Studios has that much confidence in an actor is Robert Downey Jr. Like, they are letting him kind of like, the Russo brothers are saying, they have a lot of he's doing a lot of research. He's kind of coming up with his version of the character. Are you comfortable with those two villains being like the main villains of the MCU? Do you think you would miss other people? Like, is that an appropriate replacement for you? Of Kang.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think what really is going to actually end up happening is it's going to be like, yeah, he's going to be able to further this empire and somehow be able to do everything on the ground and expand to like LA and to San Francisco and all the other states. But I do think it's like without the help or with the help of Vanessa and Valentina. Yeah. I think Valentina and Vanessa are going to help rise him to that power, but it will be centered around Kingpin, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we will see other villains show up. Sentry and Val are going to be a sort of a villainous force, and Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, First Steps, Galactus will be there, and then future Marvel films, we'll see other villains. But in terms of like who's really running the show, who we always cut back to in post-credit scenes and whatnot, you bring up a good point of the geography of it. New York feels like its own world, its own sphere, right? It has different boroughs. It has a lot of diversity, a lot of different like parts to it, and with its different boroughs and having Westchester as like a, just a neighborhood upstate from everything. Feels like there's a lot you can explore and a lot of different characters who could live there. But we know that Marvel is also developing a West Coast storyline, and we're going to have some semblance of a West Coast Avengers. In this first episode of Daredevil, Karen Page says she's going to San Francisco, and we noted that the Ant family's there. Shang-Chi is there. In LA, you have She-Hulk, who Matt has spent some time with in the She-Hulk series. Wonder Man, it's going to be very much a Los Angeles show. So do we think Kingpin could be a villain to the West Coast, or are they going to need their own kind of like threat?
I think they're going to get their own threat, but it won't be as big as Kingpin. I think New York is going to be our hub for a lot of the, we said like Marvel Spotlight, Marvel Television. Those shows will be more focused on New York, but I do think for like Wonder Man, he will get his own villain. It might just not be as big as Kingpin, or it will not be as big as Kingpin will. I think those villains also are just going to be incorporated into like, if we do the Battle World scenario and we need a bunch of villains, we need to add in some newer ones, and that will be that guy that was against Wonder Man, or the person that's against Shang-Chi and Shang-Chi 2, or whoever it might be. Yeah, maybe a sister. That's also the thing is like most of the other people that I'm like worried about, like is it Sharon, the power broker, and Shang-Chi's sister? They're not here in America, right? So I'm like, oh, they can't even be involved in any of this. Yeah,
they have like other. I don't think they care about specific neighborhoods and neighborhood heroes, and they don't care about a lawyer in Hell's Kitchen.
They said, wait a minute. Stop what we're doing right here.
Yeah.
Get your ass to that van in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, I could see Wilson Fisk being a threat to them. We know he has like some infrastructure. He has a shipping company that runs at least as far west as Oklahoma. We saw that in Echo. There's no reason to doubt that he couldn't also have some kind of base of operation on the West Coast. But my thinking is, we know there's a power vacuum in the White House right now. After President Ross had to resign, there was some vice presidential figure in there, but that's going to be a pretty weak person. Do we think Fisk stays mayor in New York throughout Daredevil season 2 and beyond? Could he have higher aspirations to become the president of the United States in the MCU?
No, I don't think he has higher aspirations, but also I keep thinking we're forgetting that Valentina does think like 12 steps ahead, and she would not allow this to happen. I think that Valentina is still a bigger threat than we're imagining this world is with Fisk. I think a lot of Fisk's rise is going to be at the hands of Valentina. I think Valentina is putting in a lot of these pieces, and that's why I'm very hooked on Valentina and Vanessa being the ones that are really actually lifting Wilson Fisk to what he's going to become.
I think that what they might be doing with Wilson Fisk is what they wish they could be doing with Norman Osborn. And Norman
100,
Osborn during
100.
Dark Reign, he's been president in the comics, and I think they want us to know who the president is, and that president to be like someone who can enact or execute legislation, send the DODC after people, a federal agency, and having a villainous president like that is an asset to Marvel Studios. I don't know if it's Fisk. It could be Val.
I was like, I don't think it's
Val.
gonna be Fisk because Fisk is still an idiot.
Yeah.
A smart idiot. I don't know if he's smart.
I just think it's interesting.
I think he's clever, but I think the way he is, he's too volatile. He immediately reacts, and he reacts in very bad ways. I think that's why Vanessa is there to help a lot of the times. It sucks that Vanessa has to be the pacifier, but I'm like, without Vanessa, which I think is where we're kind of going because they're not in a good position, I think he's just going to become too easily triggered. And that's too dangerous as a political figure to be in the White House.
I don't think he'd be a good president. I mean, Norman
I think
Osborn,
Mayor is great.
Mayor works for him because New York in some ways does have that history of Tammany Hall, and it's just who you know, and if you know the different power brokers within the city, you can run that whole city. To be a U.S. president, you have to be like a national political figure and just hit all the check boxes. You can't just be like a corrupt guy who just worked your way up.
And he is still a criminal.
Yeah, he is a criminal.
And I think the larger United States would be like, oh, we can't vote for this.
You would think. Gotcha.
I gotta go.
We have to go.
Oh my God, I gotta walk away.
You just walked right into it.
I walked right. I'm ashamed. I straight up said that.
Look, not to say,
damn.
I think we have seen that one's criminal record doesn't hold one back anymore. But what could hold someone back is like a lack of media charm. And I just
100.
think Wilson Fisk is not great on camera. Like, certain people in our world are just very telegenic and just have whatever that charm is that connects to enough voters in swing states. I don't think Wilson Fisk is that kind of national figure. I think Val could be, and I think it's just because Julia Louis-Dreyfus, like, she strikes me as someone who in a fictional universe could be a president, just maybe because she played Selena Meyer, more than a CIA director. CIA directors tend to be not very like camera friendly, like kind of, older spies who remember when we called the Russians the Soviets and like know where all the ICBMs are hidden around the world. Like, that's who a CIA director is. And Val, with her cool looks and her hair stripes, she just doesn't seem like a CIA director.
I think that's why I'm like, I think she's plotting. She's plotting a big game and a long game, and I can't stop. It's not even like a big reveal, but in her article in Total Film where she was just like, the only thing I can tell you is like she was always 4 steps ahead. I was like, oh, so like, what's the larger game at hand other than the CIA director? It's probably going to be owning the world, or owning the United States, then going to the world. Yeah. But I do think if she does offer Wilson Fisk any help or any assistance, she's still letting him do his own thing in New York. She doesn't care. Like, New York is still small, still small, but it's also like so chaotic. She's like, yeah, go ahead. Wipe the vigilantes. I don't care.
Yeah, it probably helps her out.
Yeah, honestly, it definitely probably helps her out to be like, get rid of them. Make everyone's gonna be the potholes fixed. Whatever you want to do.